So you're trying to figure out what your next step is. What are you going to do in your next season? Maybe you have a 9 to 5. You know you want more freedom, but you don't know where to start. Maybe you're in network marketing and you're worried because you're seeing a lot of these organizations are going direct to consumer. You make money there, or maybe you don't, and you're trying to figure out how to have something that is truly, legitimately your own. How do you create extra income? Where do you start? How do you do this if you have really no idea what you have that might be special? Well, today, my guest is Amy Porterfield, and you're in luck because this is what she does. She has literally helped over 90,000 people start a digital business. She is someone who's helped millions to grow their businesses using online marketing, and she really does make it simple. She has a New York Times best-selling book that delves into the subject of how to give your 2 weeks notice. Like, how do you actually do this? How do you overcome the fear? How do you figure out where to start, where to go, how to build it, how to grow it? Without further ado, my guest, my friend, Amy Porterfield.
Well, hello, my friend. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited for everybody else.
Yeah.
We talked about today before we started that every podcast starts off with like, I'm so excited.
Yes.
It's like, are you so excited? I am, but I'm really more excited for people who are ready to do this.
Yes.
But they just don't know where to start.
Exactly. And that's a big thing. Like, where the heck do I start? And if you've never done anything like this before, it could feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to.
I want to start with the very first conversation I had with a friend of mine who knows she needs to do this. She's actually further along than most people because she kind of knows what she wants to help people with. So the first thing I said to her, well, if you already know kind of like how you want to help people, why haven't you done it?
Yes. What did she say? I'm dying to know.
It's so huge. It's going to take so much time. I'm tired and I have 2 littles.
Yes. Okay. That's fair. And what she doesn't know yet is there are so many different types of courses you can create and you can get started a lot faster, and it doesn't have to be so huge. And I know we're going to get into that.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start right there with the person who is like, I don't even have time. Like I'm barely doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Maybe it's the person who works full time and they come home and they're like, I'm dead. Mm-hmm. Or the person who is trying to grow their network marketing business. Mm-hmm. They're nervous. So maybe they're even working double time right now because their income isn't what it was.
Yes.
So they're like, if I have got more time, shouldn't I be focused on growing this fill in the blank?
So that's where thinking about a different stream of revenue comes in to take away some of the burden with what's not working or what you don't like anymore. I'm in a 9 to 5 and I want to get out of it eventually. Great way to start a side hustle. Or I'm in network marketing. I'm not making as much money as I did before. Maybe I should put more focus and try to keep doing all the things here. But why not look at a different stream of revenue that could ease some of that, but also maybe open up a lot of doors you didn't even expect?
I love that. Okay. But I'm also tired and I don't have time.
Yes.
So
okay, so let's talk about that.
Like, can we just talk for a second about how would you tell, this is your girlfriend.
Yeah.
And you know, she is like, she's burnt out and she's tired. What would you, like, what straight talk would you give to her on when she needs to do this and how much time should she devote to just starting?
Okay, so first I would tell her, remember that if you create a digital course, no matter what kind, and we'll talk about 4 different kinds of courses. If you create a digital course, you create it once and then you get to promote it over and over again. And that's the secret of how I teach this. Mm-hmm. My goal is to not keep reinventing the wheel, not having to keep coming up with new offers, not having to think, what am I going to create now? What's going to work? Let's get really good at one thing and double down on it so that it can eventually create passive income for you. So that's what I'm most excited about. The other thing I'd say is, okay, well, it could take 15, 20 hours, or it could take 100 hours. Let's talk about what you really want to do here. So can I break down these 4 courses? That might help.
4 different types?
Yeah, different types of courses.
Yeah, I think so. Because when I speak to people about creating a course, I think the general perception is this has to be so huge, so big that I can sell it for, $5,000 and eventually it'll be paying for my mortgage. It'll eventually make it so easy for me to quit.
Yes, exactly. And the thing is, let's not go that big. You can go there, but I love baby steps. I like easing into this. I think you'll stick with it more and you'll actually get to the finish line.
Okay.
And so let's start with some courses that might feel like baby steps.
Okay.
The first one is a workshop course. And I actually never used to teach this. And this year is the first time I'm starting to teach it in my program because I get a lot of people just starting out. So here's what a workshop course is. It's 1 hour hour of content that you teach live, and then you can go into a Q&A afterwards. But let me give you an example. Let's say somebody wants to teach people how to land their dream job. So everything you need to land a dream job, from the resume to the interview to the questions you should ask to the negotiation, everything. That's overwhelming, right?
Right.
However, if she said, okay, I'm going to start with a workshop course and I'm just going to teach how to nail that resume. I'm going to do a 1-hour course, how to nail the resume. I'm going to sell it. So it's not free, maybe for $100. I'm going to sell it to my audience, use social media. If they have an email list, great. And then from there, I'm going to do it live and record it. Now I have a recorded digital course that I could sell on social and through email and through ads if you want, over and over again. But it's just a small lift. That will take you just a few hours to create, and you have your first, let's call it mini course. Okay, so that's one way to do it. But the second way is actually what I think a lot of your listeners, especially if they're in network marketing or even want to leave the 9-to-5 job, this next course is perfect for them. And you actually have a great idea that you and I were talking about that I want you to bring up. It's a starter course.
Okay.
A starter course is just the basics. So you're teaching someone how to get started in any area of their life, business or personal. So one of my students, she used to teach cooking classes in her house.
Okay.
And she thought, I can only serve so many people and I want to do this at a bigger level. And I hate people coming into my house every day. So she put it in a course, but it was just the basics, just how to get started with cooking. $17,000 later, she had a course that she could launch over and over again. So it's a starter course, not a lot of lessons, not a lot of videos or PDFs or anything like that, just to get people started. This could be done in 30 days. You could have it up and running and promoting it. And I'm being generous. Like, it doesn't even have to take that long.
I think people fear creating a starter course because our thought process is there's so many people. First of all, you're so much further along in that thing that you're an expert at. Like, let's take sewing. I'm a shorty, so I have to hem everything. I have to alter everything. And I spend a ton of money and time going to the tailor and then picking things up. And, so I don't want to know how to make a dress. I don't want to design a gown. I just want to know how to hem my pants. I want to know how to hem something that's stretchy. Like, there's so few things I need to know. And I haven't bought a course on sewing because I don't want to know all the things.
You don't want all the things. Exactly. Yeah. So that actually leads to another type of course you can create. I call it a spotlight course.
Okay.
Where let's say you have all this expertise. One of my students, he's a photographer. He knows everything about photography, but he created a course on how to make flash photography look like natural light. So flash photography that looks like natural light. That was all his course was about. Very similar to how to do really simple sewing so you don't have to go to the tailor all the time.
Yeah.
And he had 100 people on his email list and made $12,000. And the reason for that is he knew this is something my audience really wants to know, and I'm going to zero in on it. So we call that a spotlight course, one area of your expertise.
Okay. I think that's going to make people feel more confident that you don't have to be the expert on all the things.
No.
Oftentimes, when people are thinking about creating a course, I know I was this way. I'm thinking that the person who is the ultimate expert is going to buy my course and evaluate it.
That's such a great point. They're not paying attention, first of all. And you have to really remember, who are you serving? And you know what comes up a lot? I want to create this course, but it's already been done before. Everyone's doing this. There's no room for me. That's probably one of the number one objections people have. So one of my students, Sarah, she teaches people how to make sourdough bread. Now, if you Googled or went on YouTube how to make sourdough bread, hundreds of thousands of hits. Okay. And you could learn from YouTube. Why are they buying from Sarah? Why is she making great money with the sourdough course? They want to learn from Sarah. She created a small community online. She's a mom. She's busy. She doesn't have time. And she shares a little bit of her life while she's teaching people how to do the sourdough bread. They want to learn from Sarah. We call her Sarah Sourdough. And so you have to remember, if you create these relationships, people don't want to hunt and peck all over the web if they know, look, this woman, she knows what she's doing. I'm going to learn from her. So, and also, you need a tiny sliver of the internet to pay attention for you to be profitable with courses.
I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
And so you might not know the answer to this. What did Sarah do before she made sourdough?
Oh, I wish I knew. I actually think she might have been a stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm not positive though.
That's okay. So we've got the workshop course.
Yes.
We've got the starter course, a spotlight course.
Yep. And then you've got the Mac Daddy, the one that probably overwhelms people when they think I'm going to start here. It's the signature course. If you've ever bought a digital course that's, let's say, $1,000 or more, it's probably a signature course. It teaches everything from A to Z and promises a big transformation. That's not where we're starting. That's not how you start your digital course journey. Sure, you can get there, but I love a workshop course, a starter course, or even a spotlight course. Those are the perfect starting points, and that will allow you to think, I don't have to do it all or teach it all.
Which of these types of courses is trending? Like, is there a sweet spot right now?
I think a spotlight course is pretty popular, being really niche, that we hear that word all the time.
Yeah.
That's how you kind of break through the noise online. Like if you're a photographer and someone says, I'll show you how to make flash photography look like natural light, boom, you know exactly what you're going to get from that. And you know it can help you be better at what you do.
Yeah.
So I think a spotlight course is pretty popular right now in terms of how people want to learn.
When you've helped thousands and hundreds of thousands of people. What do you find is the number one thing that's stopping that person who doesn't have the entrepreneurial DNA, like their parents weren't entrepreneurs, or this is their first business and they have only been in corporate most of their lives? Like, what's the thing that usually you find stops them?
It's usually, do I have what it takes to create a course? I think it's imposter syndrome or doubting that what you know would work inside of a course. And so it's this idea that, also, is anyone going to buy from me? Oh, Chalene, I have like 100 objections that come up all the time, but it tends to be, can I teach in a course? Will anybody buy in a course? Would this equate to a course? A lot of that comes up.
Okay. How do you walk people through that first objection? Like, even before I start thinking about who's going to buy it, what do I have?
Yeah. Do I even have an idea for a course?
So let's just pretend that we're talking to, and I have somebody in mind. Let's just pretend we're talking to someone who has been successful in network marketing.
Yes.
They're either kind of bored with it or they fear that, something could change and they want more security. They want to build their own thing, but they're like, I don't know that I have anything unique.
I love this. So what I do is I take my students through the course creation sweet spot, and it's coming up with your course topic. That's the whole goal of this exercise. Okay. Let's go through it. Okay. Let's go through the 4 quadrants.
I'm loving it.
Anyone listening, answer these questions as we go through them. Okay. So there's 4 quadrants.
Okay.
The first one
is... So do I draw a square?
There you go. Yep. Break it up. Okay. Perfect.
Ready.
Okay, so the first top one right there is, where have you gotten results for yourself or for somebody else? Another way to say it is, where have you had great experience or expertise? Another way I explain it is, what is your 10% edge? A 10% edge is, where have you gotten results for yourself and you could just be 10% ahead of those you serve? Meaning we don't need to be miles ahead. You don't need more certification, more time, more education. You already have it. Everyone listening, you have a 10% edge. Everyone. Yeah. But I also want to expand that. Think about your personal life and in business.
Is this still my first quadrant?
That's first quadrant. Okay. So where have I gotten results? And a lot of times my students have gotten results for themselves. That's fine as well. So one of my students, she worked in corporate forever. She was actually a lawyer. And while she was a lawyer, she used a really quirky time management system that she created for herself so that she could get through her busy days. It was very odd, but worked for her. And then a few of her friends said, show me how you're doing that. And it worked for them. So she decided, I'm going to create a course based on something I created that works for me that I know can work for other people. So she had that expertise. She didn't go to a college to learn this system. She didn't get certified in it. She created it, but she knew she got results. So the number one thing in this quadrant is, where have you gotten results? Okay. But we're not talking huge transformation type of results, even simple results like how to sew.
Even just for yourself.
Even just for yourself. Okay. The second quadrant is a little bit twofold.
So would you tell people to just brainstorm this and keep going and keep going, keep going?
Yes. Throw all the ideas. No bad ideas. Don't judge yourself. And if you get stuck there, I want you to text 3 of your friends and say, what am I good at? I'm stuck right now. Tell me what you think I'm good at. And so get some help. Okay. So you're brainstorming. Come up with 3 to 5 ideas if you can. All right.
Okay.
And remember, personal and business, no judging.
Okay.
The second quadrant is, who do you want to help? And what is the challenge? What are you solving for them? So we need to start to think there's got to be alignment between what I know and where I'm an expert and what I can solve for somebody else. And usually if you think about what you're solving, you'll start to think about who you want to serve as well.
Can I give you an example?
Yes,
that,
please.
This particular exercise would really help.
Okay, good.
So I'm thinking of a friend who lost her husband, had this horrible thing. She's gotten through it. Like you can say that she's been successful in getting through grief and finding out who she is and figuring out that she can do all the things that her husband originally did and who she is after he passed. And she started creating a course and she said to me, Chalene, I don't like widows. I'm a widow, but I just don't like help. I wish I could help them, but I don't like being with them. They bring me down. So it's like if she had gone through this process, because she already knew this. Yes. She already knew this from being in Facebook groups and from other communities. She's like, it's so dark.
Yes.
And I just don't want, so this is an example of if you go through this in advance, you're going to save yourself that I know I could do this, but I don't know if I want to hang out with these people. Exactly.
So that's where thinking who you're going to serve, and all of a sudden if it's widows, she's like, I don't want to do this. So she's going to go back and think, where else do I have expertise?
Yeah.
Or it just might be she starts teaching people grief in general. I think we probably want to niche down, but it doesn't always have to be the widows. So yes, this exercise, I love that you brought this up. Think about who you want to work with, but who you do not want to work with as well.
Okay.
So really important there because you're going to have, and another great question, this is getting a little bit more deep, but do you have access to them? Can you think about where you could go to capture this audience? Are there Facebook groups? Are there communities that, or maybe you already have the audience, but you need to make sure that you can bring them into your world.
Yeah.
You don't have to have it all figured out. We're just brainstorming. Again, not judging.
Got it.
Okay. The third quadrant is where have people spent money in this area that you'd like to create a course on? So I want you to find other programs, books, podcasts, coaching around this topic of some sort.
So when you say where people spend money, like this is the quadrant where I'm looking at, like where are people going and spending money to get the solution.
Yes. And also the question is, are they spending money to get the solution?
Right.
Like, is there proof? And this is where I come back to, if you're like, yeah, Amy, 10 people are already doing what I want to do. I always say, ding, ding, ding. That is a great thing. It's proof that you could make money with this. We don't need to be first to market.
We go back to this original example, and she's like, okay, where people are spending money to deal with grief is therapy.
Yep.
They're psychiatrists.
Some kind of coaching, probably group coaching, those types of communities. There's tons of books on it.
They're spending money on antidepressants. They're spending money on other ways to get that they don't realize they're using to cope with their grief.
Exactly.
So maybe it's money that they're spending on a vice, could be online shopping or drinking or makeup or who knows what.
Who knows?
But they're using something other than,
And it's this quadrant is twofold. Number one, are people spending money to get a solution? That's great. And two, what are they doing? Because where can you show up a little different? Where can you have a little bit of a different hook, a little bit different perspective?
Okay.
You don't have to be wildly different. That's not what we're looking for. But, addressing it in a specific way that only you can is important.
Don't you also feel like people think they have to have something really, really different, but sometimes it's just your age is different than someone else. Your voice, the color of your hair. It's like, there's just certain things we relate to.
And that's what you have to remember. You are different than everybody else who's going to do this. Period. There's no other discussion there. So I really want people to hear that because it really does stop them. Everybody else is doing it.
What if I have filled up this quadrant of where people are spending money and they're all buying courses? Does that tell me that this is oversaturated?
No. And again, no one's going to do it quite like you. And I come back to you need a tiny sliver to pay attention. So let's do some quick math. Okay.
Okay. It's girl math. Wait, so how much money do we want to make? Let's start
We want to make $10,000.
Okay. $10,000. So then I need to sell
520.
So I have to sell 20 people need to buy my $500 course for me to make $10,000.
And my point being, that's $10,000 and only 20 people on the internet had to buy from you. So when we start to think about everyone else is doing it, I can't make enough money. You just made $10,000. And remember, you sell it once, you get really good at teaching it and selling it, and you keep doing that over again. It's not 10,000, it's now 20, 30, 40, and it adds up. So I really like to point out that we do not need hundreds and hundreds of people to buy from us for us to do really well with a course.
Boy, but so many people really get stuck with that. Like it's just even putting themselves out there.
It's
so
true.
What about that person who's like, wait, we've got to go up the fourth quadrant.
Okay.
So now now I know where people are spending money. What's my fourth quadrant?
The fourth one is pretty easy. What lights you up? And the reason why this is important is because I did not say, what is your life's passion? What do you want to be known for the rest of your life? What is your mission? Too big. We don't need to go there. But you do need to enjoy talking about it because as you know, and I know, if you have a course on this, you're going to talk about it a lot and you're going to meet a lot of people and they're going to ask you a lot of questions around it. Just make sure the topic makes you want to get out of bed in the morning and you're excited to serve people in that way. And the reason I tell you that is one time I created a course on Facebook advertising where I wasn't doing my ads anymore. I had an ad agency, hated everything about creating the course and didn't want to teach it. It never saw the light of day because it didn't light me up anymore. So you got to be careful of that one.
That's a really good point. Because oftentimes the thing that we know so well and we have incredible expertise at, we're over it. Like it makes us want to vomit. We're
so
like, I just don't want to do anything with this.
It's so true. I don't want to talk about it ever again. Like one of my friends, she was in MLM and she was for weight loss and it was a Beachbody.
Okay.
And she wanted to create a course, but she's like, I don't want to create a course, anything about this. I want to do something totally different. I'm like, you absolutely can. So don't think that just because this is what you do for business, this is what I do in my 9 to 5, this is what I do in my MLM, that I have to create a course on that. You actually don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now I've put this quadrant of 4 things together and I'm just going to see where there's overlap.
Yes. So you're going to start to see, okay, now that I've done the 4 quadrants and I came up with, let's say 5 ideas in the first one, where does it make sense based on these other 3 quadrants? Which topic really stands out to me the most? And so usually one will rise to the top and you'll gravitate toward one. And then from there, once you have this idea, you can start floating it by some friends. You're really good at this. You'll call up a friend and be tell me what you're doing here. Why aren't you doing this? Start having those conversations. Okay. You'll learn a lot.
Just voice notes.
Yes, I love voice notes. Yes.
So really, I think probably the top and the bottom opposing quarters are the ones where you want to start with that overlap, right?
Yes.
So I'm looking at, of the things that I have had some success in, that I'm 10% further ahead of some other people who I don't even know yet. And I'm kind of obsessed about it. Yes. I like talking about it. It's like the thing that gets me excited to share. Those where I'm seeing that crossover, I've got the potential to start a course. Now I need to go back and ask myself, what type of course makes the most sense? And do you think that they should look at the type of course that's going to make them the most money or the type of course that's going to give them a quick success?
Quick success.
Okay.
So money will come. If you really love what you're doing and you'll build up your course over time, the money's going to come. But let's just make sure that you can have that quick win because that's what usually stops us. We try to do something so big that we don't get to the finish line. It never sees the light of day. And so with, let's say, a workshop course, a starter course, a spotlight course, those can be quick wins. We can get those done pretty quickly. And you can do your marketing in so many different ways. You don't have to do webinars right out of the gate. You don't have to do your 3-part video series, what people see online. We could do just social media. I have a student, she's an esthetician, and she wanted to teach other estheticians what she knew about growing her business. She didn't use any webinars to begin with. She didn't use email marketing. She just used social media and had a really successful launch and then built on that.
But did she have a sizable following?
She actually did. She didn't have an email list, but she had a pretty good social media following.
Thank you for saying that because I think a lot of times, you hear experts say like, no, they didn't. Well, you have to have eyeballs.
You do. And that's the thing. I tell my students, I'm not magic here. I could teach you how to create and launch a course, but we need an audience just like you do with anything else you're going to do online. But you don't need a huge audience. I could tell you story after story of really small email list, really great launches. So 500 people on an email list. One of my students made $30,000. Just 500 people. That is something you can grow in a few months' time.
Even just getting on a podcast, being interviewed by someone who already has a big podcast. I always say there's so many media outlets that are free. There's so many ways to get eyeballs other than your own platform that you've built.
It's so true. And you had a great idea. So when you and I were talking before I came over here about Patreon, and that's something that I actually haven't really thought about that much, but you're on it, where you could literally put a course on Patreon and it doesn't have to be so elaborate. I even have students who create courses and it's just their audio. It's just them talking versus the videos and the slides.
That's
and
what
all
I
that.
want. Okay, so, and we're not even going to get into all of that, but I know that's part of your expertise. I should say, for anyone who is interested in doing this and you kind of need your feet held to the fire, like someone to walk you through that process, Amy is doing, depending on when you're watching this, go to Chalene.com/Amy. She does this 5 days of intensive work where you're actually going to be walked through the process of creating your first course.
And you're going to kickstart your first course. So I'm going to teach you the first steps that are crucial to get your course up and running and the decisions you need to make so that you don't create a course that, one, doesn't make you money or waste your time. So the whole goal of the boot camp is, if you're course curious, you get into this boot camp, right? You get into this boot camp and I'll teach you what it takes to get started and what the potential is for a course. So the course math we did, I do a lot of that and I have slides. So I know all the numbers for the future.
So you're helping people figure out, like, does this even make sense?
Yeah. Like, can I make money with this? And what does the money look like? I think it's important if you're going to do this for a business.
So I'm, right now on Patreon, like sharing, and I'm literally, when you said 10%, I'm like 10 days ahead of the people who I'm saying, like, here's what my at the 2-week mark of giving up alcohol. And I still don't know who I am in this or where it's going to go. But like, once I was 2 weeks in, I started talking about it. And I had all these people in my community like, I've been thinking about doing it too. And I'm like, well, the first 2 weeks were really weird. Let me just share with you what I went through. And I'm posting it as I go. What do you think about people who, can I sell people on the idea that we're going to create this together, or I'm creating it as I go?
Absolutely. So one of the things I do is teach my students how to validate an idea. Again, we don't want to create something that people won't buy. You are the ultimate validator. Anybody watching, watch how you do it because you are taking them through this experience. You're saying, I'm going to try this. I'm going to see how it goes. Now you're 2 weeks ahead of those that haven't started yet. And so you're validating it because they're telling you, I want this. This is where I'm struggling. And you can create this as you go. Here's another thing. You know how we talked about this is so big. It's too much work, too much time. Another thing I teach my students is to just teach it live. We don't need to record it, edit it, do all that stuff. It takes too long.
So much longer.
So let's say you do a course and it's going to be a 4-week course.
Okay.
Every week you go live for an hour and you teach, we'll call it a module, 4 modules. You're just doing it live, which means you can mess up and people expect you to mess up. You can have fun with it, show your personality, not have to be so rigid, because when that camera comes on and we're recording, all of us get a little different. The live can be more fun. But I feel like that's essentially what you've been doing too, just kind of teaching it as you go.
Yeah. I want to share this with the audience because for me, every single time I'm thinking about sharing something that I know I'm not the expert, this recent example, I just ask myself, okay, do I know a little bit more than someone else? And of course I do.
Yes.
A little bit more.
Yes.
And then I always say, I can tell people, which is going to let me off the hook. I am not the expert. I'm sure there's a million ways to do this. I'm just going to share with you how I do this.
What worked for me.
What worked for me.
And that's what people really want. They've already connected with you. You've already built this community. So I'm sure you can go online and find a bunch of courses on being curious about alcohol. Or what do you call it?
Sober. It's
sober
not my
curious.
term, but sober curious.
Yes. Oh, there's probably a lot of courses and books and whatnot, but they want to see how you do it because you have a unique style of how you share it. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. And people might say, yeah, but Chalene has a huge audience. Okay, but you didn't start with a huge audience.
Right.
You can start small.
But Amy, I've got this idea. I'm seeing where my quadrants cross. I can see where people might spend money on this, but I just don't have a social media following. And I don't know if I'm ready to put myself out there yet. What real talk do they need to hear?
Well, you there's no way you can build a business online if you don't put yourself out there, but you don't have to go big right out of the gate. So the reason I teach a workshop course, that 1 hour course, is because even if 10 people showed up, you're actually doing the thing. I always say the first course is as much for you as it is for your students.
So true.
So much of what you're learning, right? So I just say, let's just take baby steps and put yourself out there a little. You have to put yourself out there, but we do not have to go so big.
Yeah, that's so great. It is much easier today than ever to start a digital course.
True.
Like I think about when we first started creating courses, the amount of, even though it was less than starting a brick and mortar business, there was still costs associated with even web building and hosting and all these things that people do not need to worry about when you're getting into it.
No.
But can you just give us a quick, if I'm worried about how much money I have to invest in this?
Yes, this is what I'll tell you. This is so great. You're right. Back in the day when we were doing this, you had like 10 pieces of software. They were expensive. And also you needed a coder. Like we couldn't even do it ourselves. Now there are so many tools that are all in one, or maybe you need 2 tools max and you can make this work. They're very inexpensive and very easy to use. I am the least techie person there is, and I can get in there and I can update my course, put my modules in there. Very easy. So what I'll say is the tech is the least concern that you should have the least concern with, because it's very easy to figure out.
Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, they all now have the ability to subscribe to a particular person. Can I actually build a course and have people subscribe to it on one of these platforms?
This is why I love being around you, because you have ideas that I have never tried. I absolutely think that could work.
Absolutely.
You'd probably be one of the first to do it. Not a problem. But that's a different way of doing it, and it absolutely could work that way.
The reason why I think that people should look into doing that is because that's where people are.
That's true.
And in order for any course to be successful, you got to get people to actually do it. So if we can get them where they are, where their dopamine is already high, which is Instagram, TikTok, I'm seeing a lot of people creating content where I'm like, this is actually a course.
Absolutely.
Like you're not calling it a course.
Right.
You're subscribing, but like what I'm getting, I subscribe to a ton of people on Instagram specifically that I'm like, this is course content.
Yes. And the fact that people have to pay to be there, there you go.
Yeah.
So, or you could also, one thing I teach with my courses is building a community that goes along with the course.
Yeah.
That could be an incredible community as well.
Yes.
So now you have a community and the course platform built into one. It would be really cool.
You've killed all of our objections. People just need to start. And it's not as scary as it needs to be. So please be sure to go to that link, Chalene.com/Amy. Amy, where can people who want to connect, want to learn more from you? You've got this great podcast, but where are you the most active?
Instagram. So speaking of Instagram, come on over. I'm just at Amy Porterfield. Come say hello.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
It
you.
is our goal to be brief, to be bright, to make it fun, and then be done. We're done. You're not. So if you have not yet gone through these exercises, please do. And if you want great parking lot karma, like you want to pull up at the busiest supermarket and you get the spot right up front, you need to make sure that you're subscribed to our channel. Brock and I love you if you have. And don't forget to leave us a comment below. Let us know what are some of the ideas that you're thinking about could be a possible course for you. We'll be sure to read every single one of those comments and get back to you. Thanks for being here. Bye.
I always get really scared to do math. It's 20,000, right?
I don't know.
Okay.
We could ask Suri.
I'm pretty sure I'm
Wait,
right.
what was the question?
We should know these numbers.
Please don't judge me because I know what I'm good at and it's not math.